We are rolling now.
That's not true.
Counting us down.
No.
3, 2.
I said no.
You're listening to Missing Out with Lex Michael and Tauri J. Let's start the show.
Welcome back to Missing Out. I'm Tauri J.
I'm Lex Michael.
Hi, guys. If this is your first time listening, what we do here is we introduce each other to different media, whether it be movies, music, television, spoken word, books, comics, other media and experiences. And we
What? Are you all right?
Oh, no, I had a stroke. I just couldn't. But we take those things that have helped build us up and we introduce them to each other. And we hope that it builds you up as well. We are the retrospective that is introspective. Today we're doing something a little different in that we are not being as retrospective, in that I'm kind of introducing us to something I'm super into now. And that's the deal. Yes, Lex Michael?
No, it's flagrant disregard for the rules.
Oh, yeah.
He's going rogue.
We're the introspective that's now-trospective. Yep. That fixed it, right?
You're like Kurt Russell in Dark Blue, which I haven't seen, but based on the poster, I'm guessing is about an honorable, if slightly morally dubious police figure who is forced to go super rogue and take the law into his own hands in order to potentially save a loved one who was kidnapped, or avenge a loved one who was murdered, or something of the sort.
Yeah. And that's what happened with me is I got an email that was like, if you look back past 1999, I'm going to murder your family. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to go current. I got to go as current as possible.
Who sent you this? Who sent you the email?
If I knew, I would tell the police, but I don't. I just got to abide.
What is the email address?
The email address is killtarisfamily@gmail.com.
So you should write to Gmail. Be like, excuse me.
They're like, doesn't
violate terms of
use. Yeah. They're like, I mean, we have 6 Killtaris families already. So I mean, if we take this one out, we got to take them all out.
Yeah, we have
just
to take
don't have
like
the time.
Killtaris family 1 and Killtaris family with underscores in between each
Right.
word.
It's a slippery slope. It's a snowball effect, you know. But no, I recently got into the Manhattan Projects, a graphic novel that started in 2012. The writer is Jonathan Hickman, known for his work on a lot of like Image comics, like he did Red Wings, and he also does a lot of Marvel stuff. So he did Fantastic Four, he did some Avengers run. I think he also did some Secret Warriors as well, like Shield stuff.
If you're not a comics person, you're not familiar with the name Jonathan Hickman, but you're definitely, if you live on Earth, you are now at least passingly familiar with some of his work. He created for the Marvel Infinity storyline a handful of years ago, the Black Order characters like Corvus Glaive, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, who showed up as the children of Thanos in Avengers Infinity War, which grossed $2 billion. So you probably saw it.
Maybe a little bit of it. But yeah, and so he really likes doing what one would call like alternative history. And so he wrote this series called the Manhattan Projects, which essentially the premise is, what if the Manhattan Project, which was a collection of physicists by the government to create the first atomic bomb, what if that was just a front for even more morally questionable experiments? And so like this graphic novel dives into it, and I had Lex Michael read the first volume, which is a collection of the first 5 issues. And so if you are also, just a quick cute little ComiXology shout out. If you want to read it yourself, check it out. It's on ComiXology. And you can also, if you want to, you can get a physical version. There's going to be a link in the description. You can click that, grab a copy for yourself. It's really good, as you're about to hear us talk about. Lex, what were your first impressions of this comic?
This thing's nuts, dude. This is great. I was very passingly aware of this series.
Yeah.
But very, very passingly. All I really knew about it was that it was an alt history of the Manhattan Project.
Right.
Jumping in, I mean, immediately I was struck. We were introduced pretty early to the idea that Robert Oppenheimer was at one point murdered and replaced by his evil twin brother, Joseph Oppenheimer, who likes to eat people. And so that's the gentleman involved in these projects. And this is pretty early, right? This is the first issue.
Yep.
That we sort of walked down that road a piece. That's like such my shit. Like, there really is, like, dark doppelgangers that eat people.
Yeah.
And it's a horrifying thought, right? Like, this is a point in history, in world history, like in our world, right? What was happening scientifically in the World War II era, and then immediately afterwards, I think was a massive shift in the history of the human race in a number of ways, right? I feel like at that point in time, we could have gone off in two separate directions, right? One is using all of that science, putting these incredibly brilliant minds together and creating something, right? And like that could have sent us off in a direction where like a utopia, technological utopia that we would still be building upon today for the betterment of all people, or we could have gone the way we did go, which is we use it to create something horrific, something destructive. And then around it, we sort of built this entire industry of destruction and war that has since come to more or less control not just the government, but most of the world.
Right.
Like, that was the moment, right? Like, and you could use, it wasn't any one specific moment, but if you wanted to point at one and say, well, this was probably the moment where that split in reality, if you will, happened. It's when they dropped that bomb.
Right.
And not even when they tested that, not the Trinity test even necessarily. Although, like if there was like some cosmic rip in the space-time continuum that occurred, that's probably when it happened.
Yeah.
But I mean specifically the moment where we decided, and we depict it in the Manhattan Projects, where we decided to drop that horrific weapon of total destruction onto human beings.
Yeah.
And you see, like, in that sequence, the military essentially goes rogue. Like, Truman is screaming at them in this story, like, not to drop the bomb because he's aware of the horrific ramifications. Like, this is not only something you can't go back on, but if you take half a step back and look at what the fuck it is you're doing, this is the most unspeakable atrocity man has ever committed towards man.
Yeah.
Truman is aware of this, and the general's just like, nah, fuck it, bomb him. At that moment, now the president, the government, is not in control. The military, and by extension, the eventual military-industrial complex, is in control.
Right.
I didn't realize, like, I'm even more into this shit than I was aware of. I was like, do I have thoughts about this? As I was coming here today, I was like, do I have thoughts about this? I don't know. Let's find out. I guess I do.
Yeah, just like a little bit, like a few thoughts. I mean, because it ended up, and even the people who worked on the bomb originally, like once it happened, all of them had to take a step back and be like, science can be used for bad. Like,
well, that's where that very, very famous oft reappropriated quote from the real Oppenheimer came from. The "I am become death, destroyer of worlds," which I think he pulled from the Bhagavad Gita.
I believe so, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, but like is now became so popularized because he used it in reference to his association with the bomb.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And who can say like what, like when you start talking about all the split timelines from the moment that the bomb hit, like, because I was having this conversation with someone recently, because we were talking about history and we were talking about Japan specifically because someone was talking, or there's a movie called Grave of the Fireflies, which takes place in occupied Japan post World War II. And it's really sad. It essentially depicts two children starving to death in a cave. It's so sad. But then that got us talking about how much the dropping of the bomb changed so much of people's histories and perspectives that like anime itself probably wouldn't exist if not for the dropping of the atomic bomb, because so much of it is was people trying to process the horrific events and how like the effects of the radiation. So like you'll see it reenacted in a lot of different anime, especially like from its origins through even now. You'll still kind of get some of it, but like if you go to Akira, like very very much like atomic bomb drop inspired, also like Evangelion, like you name an influential anime, it is very much inspired by that. And so it's really interesting to think like the things that would and wouldn't exist if not for that moment. It's like the ADBC kind of thing where it's like before bomb, after bomb. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you brought up Oppenheimer. I just want to go on a little side tangent.
Go, right.
In this story, the way that they depict Joseph Oppenheimer, Robert Oppenheimer's twin brother, who eventually like kills and replaces him, is that everything that he kills, he consumes and he gains their knowledge.
Yes.
And I think that's a really interesting concept because it's this idea that someone who is so hungry for knowledge essentially consumes everything that he comes in contact with.
Right, like destroy and assimilate.
Right. And I really love this concept, and I wanted it actually to be the concept of the M. Night Shyamalan movie Split. I wanted that movie to have a version of this where this guy has so many different personalities because everyone that he kidnaps, like
he absorbs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted that for that movie, and it wasn't that. It was just McElroy doing a bunch of bits.
They were pretty solid bits.
No, they were good bits. I'm just saying, like, conceptually, I wanted it to be that thing, but it wasn't. But that's what it really made me think of. Just this idea of this one facilitator of multitudes of knowledge, and the more he consumes, the smarter he becomes, but it's at the cost of someone else's existence.
Right.
Which I find really fascinating.
And dark.
Oh, yes, so dark.
Like a lot of what's happening in this story, like there are big sequences in this story, at least in the first 5 issues, that feel like you could be watching like a Paul Verhoeven action movie, where like something like like RoboCop or Starship Troopers, which if you only want to engage with the surface, is like like pew, 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 stuff blowing up. Oh, look at that guy's arm. It was on, and now it's not on anymore. Look at it go.
Yeah.
It's flying. It's over there. The arm is flying now. Why is the arm flying? It's got wings. It's flying away. That doesn't make any sense at all. But if you scratch just a little bit beneath the surface, there's all of these really pointed and heady and really sharp ideas that he's trying to convey, and that's happening here too.
I mean, yeah, I think that you're right in that. I feel like there's so much going on from the very beginning. Like you are introduced to Oppenheimer, and he's in this office with Lindsay Groves, and he's just like, "Oh man, welcome to the fold, blah blah blah. You're not a communist." And you're like learning his backstory, but like at the moment you get to the facility, you're introduced to all these different things. You're introduced to this machine that makes imaginary artifacts real, and you're introduced to the idea that like Japan has these Tauri gates that essentially are portals, and you're introduced to all these like fantastical things that are scientific with air quotes, but like and that in and of itself cool, drive you in. But at the same time, like a lot of the character work and the world building is so specific, and it is so like intentional that like if you read this like on your first pass, you could just as easily be like, yeah, a lot of cool visuals, but like on your second pass, you could also be like, well, there are a lot of interesting themes here, because like the first volume starts and ends with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
You learn about his origins. You kind of see him interacting with everyone who's part of the project, and then the project gets to a certain point. We get to the bomb, and then we get to this point where like Oppenheimer can now essentially start consuming and absorbing across the whole multitude of the universe.
Right. Also, too, like at about the same time, you've got Einstein building through this monolith, like a doorway across time and space into other worlds, other like planes of existence almost.
Yeah. And so like we were talking about a minute ago about how there is this like everything that took place in this project essentially accumulated in that bomb, but like this story really feels like it is kind of showing the dangers of like science gone unchecked. Like if you it's that moment in Jurassic Park where he's like, you're so busy wondering if you could do something, you didn't stop to think about if you should. That was my Jeff Goldblum. It was really good. Thank you.
All
yeah.
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks everyone. Thank
totally,
you.
It's like he was in the room. it's like Tauri went away from me. Where'd Tauri go?
But that's it.
Nothing
Like
but Jeff.
I think that like the double-edged sword is that like yes, you could imagine that like if the bomb had not dropped and that wasn't the ultimate goal of this coalition, then yes, we could be living in a big utopia of scientific advancements, but we could also just as easily be living in a dystopia of scientific like morally questionable things.
Right.
And I feel like that's a lot of what this explores.
Yeah, and then also this idea that human nature is such that maybe we can't necessarily be trusted to wield this much near godlike power without fucking the whole thing up, essentially. Like, you see what happens? Like, the people who are actually pursuing their ends, you could argue nobly, people like the actual Oppenheimer, the actual Einstein, like, they're dispatched pretty early on and replaced with, you could argue, like, corrupted, dark versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And now, like, to the military in this story, who we see multiple times, even in the first 5 issues, are so gung-ho to use this technology to kill the shit out of everything. This idea that human nature, we lean towards destruction and we yield towards trying to hurl that destruction in all directions without any consequence whatsoever. And yeah, are we fated to always fuck it up? Like, we talk about how there was a split, right? Like, the reality split and it could have gone one way or the other. But maybe it couldn't have gone the other way, because maybe humans are so driven to destruction and violence that they're inherently going to corrupt anything beautiful that could actually lead us in that direction. Like, that's very much there. Like, it's definitely not an accident that, like, the real Oppenheimer and the real Einstein are taken out, like, real early.
Yeah.
Like the quote unquote dreamers of the first handful of issues. Like, they're both just, one of them's literally eaten. And the other one, and this too, what happens to Einstein, and what's his doppelganger's name? Eldrick?
Yeah, I think it's like
Alden Ehrenreich?
Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich. How did you know? No, I think it's like because it's
Albrecht. It's Albrecht.
Albrecht. Yeah.
So he knocks out Einstein. Like, Einstein gets the monolith door to open. He knocks out Einstein and switches his places with him, and he pulls him into his world, which is apparently hellish by comparison.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you're not going to like it here, bro. Peace. And, like, leaves the real Einstein in his world, takes his place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty effed up, man. I wouldn't like it if that happened to me. Where are you at with that? Would you like that? Would you not like that?
Would I like to be knocked out and drug into another world? I don't know.
Knowing that, like, a dark, like a specter wearing your face would then step into your life. And so nobody would know. Like, nobody would know you were gone. They'd think you were there and just acting a little funny.
That's true. What if, I don't know. Is this specter going to pay my bills and stuff, though? Is this specter going to, like...
It depends whether or not, like, that fits his specter agenda.
I guess so. Like, I like to imagine that they're going to, like, even a dark version of me is just going to do what I do, just, like, slightly meaner. So, like, maybe they'll still be, like, really responsible with money and really, like, lazy and stuff. Like, they'll just sit on the couch in a meaner way.
Right. Like, you'll do a podcast, but it'll be a mean podcast.
Right. It'll be like
the show, we'll rebrand the show, and it'll be like things you're definitely not missing out on because they suck. And I'll be like, I don't know, I wanted to take the show in this direction, but he was just so mean about it.
Yeah, other me is a bully. if he's willing to hit me in the head. You know what actually bothered me about that moment?
Yeah.
Is that Einstein, the other Einstein, he comes through the door, and so you see the buildup to the opening of the monolith. You see that like one day, Einstein was struck with a vision. He saw this door and he started putting it together over the course of like months or years, and he finally like gets it together. He opens it, and then like his other self is on the other side, and his other self is like, how did you open it? I couldn't figure it out. And before he can even answer, he hits him in the head. And it's like, no, wait for the answer. Wait for him to tell you what he did and then do it. Like, you can't be like, hey, what's the meaning of life? Like, you meet God and you're like, what's the meaning of life? And then you shoot him in the face and you're like, bye, God.
He's like, who gives a shit? I killed God. The meaning of life was killing God, and I killed God. Now I'm God. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I feel like that kind of applies. Like, it's possible all he gave a shit about opening the door for was just to get out of wherever he was.
Right.
And so now it really is. It's less about the answer to that question and more about, let's just kill God. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to get you and I'm going to toss you in there, and now I'm free. And now who gives a shit if that door ever opens again?
Right. I mean, but he also, like, so when you meet Einstein, he's constantly staring at this monolith. You imagine because he's still concerned with how to open it up. And eventually, like, Richard Friedman comes along and he's like, oh yeah, it's it's whatever, not the Fibonacci sequence. It's it's a matter of pi, and he like figures out how to open it up. Also, was Pythagoras a pedophile? Is that a thing? Because I feel like I've
Weren't
heard...
they all pedophiles back then?
What?
Weren't they? Like Socrates and Pythagoras and...
I don't know.
Well, Socrates, I think it's documented. I think Socrates was a pedophile.
Oh.
I think most of them were pedophiles at the time.
Interesting. Okay, because
This could be entirely apocryphal, but you hear things. You hear things at meetings.
Oh. Just imagine NAMBLA meetings where they're like, guys, Socrates was a pedophile. No one cared about that. Everyone's talking about Socrates this, Socrates that. He's a credit to our people.
You could totally just Google it. I don't really know what to Google though. Like,
no, I don't Google it. Just don't shatter the grand illusion.
Just be like, Siri, were they all pedophiles back then?
Because I feel like that's the second reference to like specifically Fibonacci or Pythagoras that someone was like, I'm not a pedophile, so I don't understand that, but
I think it's a thing.
Okay, interesting. You learn so many new things.
I mean, I really hope like the Pythagoras estate doesn't sue me for slander. They're very litigious.
Oh yes, very much so.
Pythagoras estate.
More like Petty-Thagoras. Am I right, guys? Am I right? Everyone's high-fiving me in this room. You can't hear it because they're really quiet high fives. Everyone's really courteous because we're recording a podcast. But I'm getting so many high fives for that one.
He really is moving his hands around like there are people high-fiving him.
Yeah, there are.
There's
so
no
many
one
people.
else.
So
No
many
one
people
else in this room.
high-fiving me. All the courteous high fives. Oh, look how courteous these high fives are. Ooh, yeah. Okay. So another person that is featured in this graphic novel is Werner von Braun.
Yes.
Who was a German Nazi scientist who was eventually, after the fall of the Third Reich, was brought into American custody to work with us.
Got
doing science. Yeah.
That's what they called it. Operation Paperclip was the effort by the American government to recruit German scientists.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you were like, it's like Clippy. It'd be like, it looks like you're trying to recruit German scientists.
Oh.
Can I help you with that?
Maybe that's why they called it Operation Paperclip. They had foresight of what is it? What was that? Was it Word? Was it
Yes,
Word?
it was Word.
It was Flippy. They had foresight of both Microsoft and the Microsoft Office suite and the mascots thereof.
Well, they were the greatest minds of this century.
No, that's what that project was called.
Okay.
When they were recruiting those scientists.
Yeah.
After the war.
This is turning into a real edutainment podcast.
Sort of. I feel like the first half of what we've done so far felt like a warm up. I feel like I'm just now starting to become coherent. I think I had moments of lucidity earlier, but I think now things are slightly starting to cohere.
Well, I mean, the first half of this was me being like, this is cool, and that's cool, and everything's cool.
I mean, it's true.
I mean, it is cool.
And you did the heavy lifting. You're the real hero.
Oh.
You're the real Oppenheimer. You're the real Werner von Braun.
No.
Yeah, you're the real, that one guy who was like, bomb them. You're the real that guy.
Yes, he doesn't suspect that I've replaced Tauri. Hoo-hoo-hoo. He'll never know. Yes, I am the real those people. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. My laughter is proof that I am real. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Anyways, so yeah, I
like the idea that like there's this synthetic person or like your dark doppelganger who's trying to pass as you, but they're so bad at it. But they don't get called out because everyone is way too uncomfortable to bring it up. Like they know it's not you. They're positive. Like they know it's your doppelganger, but they're all like, this is just so fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything.
Every time I start to talk, he gets really close to me. like we are cheek to cheek right now. And I'm just talking about him. Like, can you imagine, like when I'm talking to him, we are nose to nose. I can feel his breath on my teeth. That's why it's so uncomfortable.
And that's why you're the real Werner von Braun.
There's a crazy sequence where they're going through the process of recruiting him. Like you meet Werner von Braun. That's how you pronounce it. You meet him when he's first getting his new arm, and he's talking to Hitler, being like, "Yeah, I'm all for the cause."
That's right.
And then he like kills all the other scientists, and he's like, "Guys, I'm for the cause, and the cause is science. I'm all about it, and I'm the only rocket scientist here. I'm in, all in. Hashtag I'm in.
All in.
Yeah."
Hashtag I'm in all.
Which was it was a fun sequence. I liked it.
Hey, Hitler cameo.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like some sweet Hitler real estate? I mean, but you kind of have to, like, he's kind of got to be there, right? Like,
well, yes.
You can't really have no Hitler in the story.
No.
Can't really have, like any story worth telling needs a little Hitler.
Yeah. Even my fantasy stories, there's always like, and Tolkien was all about it too.
Yeah.
Sauron is just Hitler too. When you look beyond when you look inside the eye, it's just a guy with a weird mustache.
No, like there's a whole what do they call it? The Silmarillion? Was that they wouldn't let him publish the original version of the Silmarillion, which was just Hitler stuff.
Oh yeah.
It was just all the Middle Earth Hitler stuff. Mm-hmm. It was like Hitler with hanging out with hobbits, just being a dick in the Shire.
Yeah.
And it was Hitler like with elves, just being a dick in elf land.
Yeah.
And then it was just Hitler being a dick, like kicking Aragorn in the shins.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, stop that. And Hitler's like, 9, and just keeps kicking him in the shins and whatnot. It was just that. That was the entire text. It was just that, just vignettes of Hitler fucking stuff up. And then he turned it in and they were like, no. He was like, fine. Assholes.
Yeah, I guess I'll write some fantasy.
You can't handle this shit because it's too real.
Jeez.
Can you just Hitler in the Shire?
I think
when they inevitably make more of those, aren't they spending like $1 billion Amazon like on a Lord of the Rings series?
Are they?
Why not just do that? Just Hitler in the Shire, just like Hitler being a dick in the Shire.
I don't know if it will play well. I think we're past the point where like Hitler's cool to have in content. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
we're in a post
Hitler cool
society.
Oh my god, I wanna unearth a relic of the cool Hitler era, like in between, not the like Third Reich cool Hitler, because that's not cool.
No,
I'm talking like the 80s, like mid to late, almost like the Poochie version of Hitler, where he's got like a backwards baseball cap and like he's wearing flannel and he skateboards and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah,
Hitler.
yeah.
I want to. Yeah, we're gonna unearth some cool Hitler relics.
It's probably somewhere in Argentina.
Yeah, like, you know, the Nikes that they made, like the Hitler Nikes,
right?
And like when he teamed up with Sprite.
But when he did it, they called it Sprite.
Okay. That's the real great atrocity. Sorry.
Come on. that was the natural ending to that line of jokes. If you were like, where do we cut this off? It's there.
It's right there.
That's where it is.
It's right there. The plane has crashed into the mountain.
What
were we talking about?
We were talking about Werner von Braun.
That's right.
Werner von Braun. I also really liked that Fermi, first name, Enrico Fermi. I really like that he was an alien.
Yeah.
Because if you're unfamiliar, he is the creator of what is known as the Fermi paradox, where it posits that if intelligent life exists here, then it must exist in the vast expanse of the universe.
Right. If we are to buy into the idea that the universe is actually infinite, then the odds of there being no intelligent life anywhere but here are pretty small.
Right. So the idea that the person who came up with that idea is himself an alien is really cute.
Right. It's like, I didn't have to work very hard to come up with this shit. Don't tell anyone how easy this was so they all think I'm a genius. That's him.
Yep. I mean, that's what you got to do.
That's my Fermi.
It was a good Fermi. One could say it was a Fermi.
But why would one? Why would one say
because
that?
One's so cool.
You get
one's the coolest.
You get your ass kicked saying stuff like that.
Really? By who? Someone comes up, they're like, fucking nerds.
Just like roving gangs of people who really hate wordplay.
I don't believe in aliens.
This is chaos. This whole podcast is chaos today.
A little bit.
It's a little chaotic, man. It's times are rough. that's all I can.
Yeah. For real? That's what's up.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Times are rough. But you know who time is rough for mostly? The alien species.
Okay, yeah, we got to talk about. There's some genocide within the first 5 issues.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Well, yeah. I mean, they did a good, okay job of like making it that the genocided aliens were bad. Yeah.
Yeah, well, bad, like ostensibly bad, or ostensibly a threat.
Right. I mean, yes. So like we meet these aliens of whose names I forget. But it doesn't matter because they're all dead. I think they're the Sill.
Yes, that sounds correct. And what a awful insult to their memory.
I mean, they were monsters. They like.
That's just racist.
No, they were.
That's super racist.
No, they were literal monsters. We meet them and they're like, "Oh man, you were expecting these other aliens? Well, we killed them and we ate their children and we are feasting on their bones." And so like America's like, yo, we're gonna go to these people's planet and we're gonna just murder them with radiation.
I do like though that when I guess you call him like an ambassador is talking to the American military, like he's talking and he's saying all of this awful stuff, but they don't understand because that's the part that's not translating.
Yeah.
But the whole meeting, it's like very outwardly, it sounds like he's being very diplomatic. But there's all of this very threatening, like we're just gonna like pull your spine out of your dick and like eat it all, starting with your dick.
Yeah.
That just isn't coming across. Like we get it in the little like it's a very comics thing where you put the little brackets or the what do you call those? I only know them as like the greater than, less than signs, but it's always within those as brackets.
Yeah.
Things that are
The carrots.
translated for carrots. Is that what we call them? That
Little
are
carrots.
translated for our benefit. But not for the characters.
Right.
And it's all just like we're gonna turn your dick in on itself. It's gonna become a black hole.
Yeah, we're gonna put your dick in your butt.
And fucking Hitler's gonna march on it and like take it to the Shire.
Well, yes, and I think I thought it was interesting that we meet this group because like the way that we end before this issue of the comic, like we're basically about to end World War II, which was about like a person who was essentially trying to murder as many groups of people as he could and gain as much territory, which we find out is essentially what this group of individuals was all about. Like the Sill was all about like murdering and like imperializing and all that stuff.
Bunch of space Hitlers.
And so, I mean, kind of, yeah. And the idea that we turn around and then commit genocide on them is a really interesting irony that they use to kind of lead us into the next volume. Because, like, when it happens, we get this little bit with another alien of a different species who managed to survive, and he's like, not a great way to start your foray into the stars. See you guys later. You done fucked up?
Bye. It's like pieces. This just disappears.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, and it's isn't it our way though to go to a new area and be like, this is ours now. We're gonna kill everyone there, and we in the name of science and progress.
Right, and of course it's largely in the name of tribalism and viciousness. But it's very human. It's particularly American. I think we do it real well. We do it better than just about anybody else. But it's very human.
I mean, and we as Americans learned it from our dads. We learned it from our dads. Britain was all like, we're gonna take over all the places. Humans are animals. We're gonna do all, like, you ever go to the British Museum, you're gonna be like, oh man, they were fucking monsters.
The British Museum.
Yeah, dude. It's like, look at all the cultures we conquered. Look at all the stuff we stole from different civilizations.
Yeah, look at this pot. Do you like this pot? The owner of this pot is dead. And we killed them. That's how we got this pot you like.
Mm-hmm. It's real nice. Hey, guys. But, like, they're so civilized or they're so, like, sophisticated feeling that you're like, I can't be mad at you, Britain. You got a cute accent. You guys got such a cute... dry wit about you, and they're like, we'll kill all your family. Ooh, we like land and gold.
You're doing the Dr. Evil Pinky.
I am, yes.
Why are you doing the Dr. Evil Pinky?
Because that's how British people talk.
They all do the pinky?
They all do the pinky.
Wow.
Like, because it always stays out, especially when they're drinking tea.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. And so the next course is to put it to their lips and taste that sweet, sweet pinky air. They're like, yum.
It's a signal to other British people.
Yeah.
So, like, if you don't know the pinky thing, you're an imposter.
Right.
Like, you're not a real Brit.
Yeah. It's like that scene in Inglourious Bastards where Michael Fassbender uses the wrong finger to indicate 5 or 6 or 3 or something. And everyone's like, you're not really German. And they kill him. Spoilers for Inglourious Bastards. If you haven't seen it, I apologize. I just needed to illustrate my point.
It's a good movie.
That's
now ruined for you.
Yep, that scene was the crux. And now
don't at me, at him.
Yeah, at me, bro. If you ain't seen it by now, like, statutes of limitations is over, yo. You had your chance. Now you know. If you're like, oh, I'm going to go watch this and Michael Fassbender's going to blow my dick off, you're wrong. If anything, he gets his dick blown off. No spoilers.
There's a Nazi in that scene who gets his dick blown off.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender doesn't get his dick blown. I mean, he might. We don't see it, but like he might.
Yeah, off screen.
But there's definitely Hugo Stiglitz definitely blows off a Nazi's balls.
Yeah.
That part where he's like, say goodbye to your Nazi balls. That's how you know.
Well, yeah.
Well, that and you see it.
Right. Well, of course you see it. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
You always gonna see it.
When a dick gets shot off, you best believe it's getting shot off in CinemaScope in close up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you get all the blood and the bits.
It's like, why do we even have to do? You're shooting so close on the dick, like the beautiful vistas that CinemaScope lends itself to are not present. He's just like, yeah, but look, it's so big.
Yeah.
So look at that dick get shot. Look at it. There was a dick there. There used to be your dick there, and it's gone.
Yep.
It's just gone.
I feel like this is a good chance to talk about alternative history and you know,
that's how we find our way back, right? Inglourious Bastards, also alternative history.
Yeah.
There we go. And has a little bit of Hitler in it. Not a ton, not too much Hitler.
No, yeah, not too much.
Just a little taste.
Mm-hmm. He's not kicking any hobbits or anything.
Right. He's not, unfortunately, not marching on the shot. Can you imagine, though, if Hitler, like, had, if, like, the what do they call them? The Wraiths, like, had the little armbands and, like, were like, leading some stormtroopers into the Shire. And Hitler's there for whatever reason, but he's wearing, like, a big cape and a little crown. And he's just like, Hobbits 9, and just kicking him out of the way and shit. And all of the Hobbits are like, stop that. And he's like, 9, he keeps kicking them and shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, where are our friends? Where's Aragorn? And Aragorn's like, I'm not, there's just, I'll be over here, guys.
Yeah,
like,
I choose not to participate.
Like, right. Like, we just did a war. We just did a war about some jewelry. You know what I mean? Like, I just led an army of ghosts to help you win the jewelry war. I'm tired. You got your one. If you wanted me to fight in this one, you should have saved me for that one. My hero's journey's over. I went home.
Oh, man. Aragorn sounds like America.
That's why, like, the hobbits have to allow Aragorn's territory to be bombed just so Aragorn will come to war again.
Oh.
And the whole time, though, the whole story, Aragorn is like, he's like the Rock in The Rundown, where he's just like, I can't pick up my sword. I can't. It's just when I pick up swords, bad things happen. And the hobbits are like, bro, we know. That's why we need you to pick the sword up. He's like, no, I can't. Can't do it. I'll do anything else you want, man. I'll do the fists. I'll kick some people. I'll kick them super hard. I'll push them. I'll push them down. And I'll call them names, but I'm not picking up swords, bro. I'm not doing it. And then at the end, of course, the reason he's not picking up the swords is because he's so good at swords that he kills literally everything.
Yeah.
But he doesn't stop killing. It's the bloodlust in Aragorn is awakened.
Yeah. Even his teammates, he's just like, ugh. And they're like, we're on your side.
And he's swinging the sword at Nazi wraiths, but also in his other hand, like he's drinking blood out of Legolas's head.
Oh, jeez. That got so dark.
And he's like, you all asked for this. And the hobbits are like, no, we did not. That is incorrect. And Hitler, like, peaced out a while ago. Like, at a certain point, he went, fuck this. And then he went,
The king has returned.
and like Sam writes Frodo, because Frodo went off at the on the boat at the end of those movies. So I don't know where the fuck he is. So like Sam eventually has to send him word, and like he's sitting there with Gandalf reading the letters over some tea, being like, the fuck. So shit, I got out at exactly the right time. Shit.
But it's like one of those movies where, like, as they're reading this, they're like, Aragorn did what? And then, like, it like pans up, and Aragorn is right behind them, and he like slashes the camera, and it's like credits.
And then we get like 7 movies that are basically Friday the 13th, but it's Aragorn, like Aragorn takes Manhattan and shit.
Yeah.
But it's just like an hour and 20 minutes of him on a boat, and then he gets to Manhattan and he just sort of wanders around. He's trying to get a taxi, and no taxi will stop.
Right.
He realizes he left his sword on the boat, so he's sort of fucked. Gets arrested, spends 2 more movies cuffed and in jail cell. And he's just like, do you know who I am? I killed all the Nazis in the Shire. And they're like, sure, buddy.
But yeah, alternative history. I but I really wanted to kind of introduce this to people because I thought the world building was so amazing and that like it takes the foundation of the history that we know.
Yes.
And then like the ending of the like first volume / the 5th issue essentially opens the gate, for lack of a better wordplay. But it opens the gate to so much more because like, it starts at a very grounded place. When you're just in a room with Oppenheimer and Groves. And then it like ends up becoming this giant galactic thing where you could literally do anything.
Right.
Because they've introduced the idea of aliens. They've introduced the idea of multiple universes. They've introduced so many different ideas over the course of these like issues.
Right.
That like essentially you end at the beginning of a much greater story.
Right.
And I really love that aspect of it. And I feel like this is something like if I were to do a book club, I would totally like just go week to week talking about the different volumes of this. Like there are, I think at this point, 5 or 6
I want to say
full
there's
volumes.
6 trades now.
Yeah.
How much of it have you read?
I've read the first 2 volumes.
Okay, because this is definitely something I want to continue to read. Like I really, really dug it. And it's not just the story. I feel like we also we need to make it a point to shout out the art by Nick Pitarra.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Pitarra. It's two R's.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to like Pitarra.
Yeah. Just do both. Yeah. Nick Pitarra. That's how it is.
Anyway,
That's
this is a pretty looking book, and this is a style of art that I like a lot. There are a couple of other artists that draw in a similar style whose names all escape me right now. But it's a style that I really, really like. It's a kind of cartoony. It's got a weird kind of like a lumpy look to it a little bit, but like everybody's very cartoony, and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it lends itself right to like it exists in a perfect space where all of the horrors are depicted visually, like just far enough off the mark of total realism.
Yeah.
That you can read it and have fun instead of just staring slack-jawed at the endless sea of horrors being depicted.
Yeah. And there's something really visceral about it. So like, and especially the way that they use color. So when they're doing the Oppenheimer story, they have Robert Oppenheimer's story in blue, and then they have Joseph Oppenheimer's story in red, and then when they come together, like all of Robert's blood is blue, and so you see his blood all over Joseph's face in all of the blue varieties, and when they come together, you still see the red after visions, which is really cool. So like I really dig his like use of the different color palettes, even though like I feel like when you're doing regular like mundane things in this story, like he keeps it fairly like muted when it's grounded, and then when it goes bonkers, he like uses so many different colors and variations of that. Like when you get the aliens melting scene, it's so like tactile and visceral, and it's very colorful, which I really enjoy.
Yes, and again, it keeps the look of it really fun and really consistently vibrant.
Yeah.
Which contrasts with just how unspeakably horrible much of what they're doing is.
Yeah, but they're killing bad guys, so justified.
Yeah, aren't they always?
Totally justified. Aren't
they always killing bad guys?
Yeah, that's how you got to do it. And they're aliens, so like, if they're not us, then they're dust. Hashtag, if they're not us, then they are dust. Ooh, yeah.
Don't at me, at him. At him.
What? That's the phrase. That's it. That's the catchphrase.
Do you remember when Toby Keith did that song? And I don't remember what song it was, but it had a line in it that was something to the effect of, "We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way." And people were so offended.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not what America stands for. We're not about putting boots in asses. We're about putting boots in the
ground.
Faces of children. No, that's not it. On the feet of children. That's it. That's the ticket. We're not in. How dare you?
Yes, I remember.
That's it.
Okay.
There was nothing further to that.
You mistook what I was. I'm not talking about America. I'm talking about humanity. If humanity had a slogan, it would be, if you're not us, then you are dust.
People will put a boot in your ass.
Yeah.
It's Earth.
If you got
what
an
Earth
ass, we're gonna kick it.
Says, good day, sir or madam. This is a very fine ass you have. I see it is unoccupied by a boot. I happen to have a boot.
Yeah. I see that you have an ass without a boot. I can help you with that. Clippy, get out of here. What are you doing here? Just trying to help, sir. No, Clippy, no.
You don't even have feet.
He's just always willing to help. It's his thing.
He walks around with like one boot, like he's in one boot and he's got the other boot sitting on his head.
Yeah. And he only uses boots that have clips on them instead of shoelaces. Yeah.
It's like him taking a union position.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
He does one thing and he does one thing well. Clip. Okay. I'm gonna start wrapping us out. Do you have any last thoughts on this book?
I dug it. Hopefully that was clear. Like, I dug it a lot. I think it's a great story within itself so far. Again, only 5 issues in, but so far I think it's a great story in itself. And also, I am really fascinated by this period in history and sort of the technological breakthroughs therein. Yeah. And also, and this is something we maybe alluded to, but I'm fascinated by the intersection of science and what you could call sort of magic or like mysticism.
Yeah.
And not in the way like a lot of very beloved stories will tell stories about magic and will try and explain magic through a scientific prism. I more like the idea that science was our magic in a way that we didn't notice, in a way like we were talking about earlier. We could have used it for good, but instead, due to our destructive inclinations as part of our nature, we totally went the other way. But like that, the idea that like, okay, so actually Twin Peaks does this in the 3rd season. There's an episode, and I can't really spoil it because it's all in the execution, but we jump back and we see the Trinity test, and we realize that at that moment when mankind split the atom and we set off that bomb, it did create that tear in reality. It was powerful enough and in a way magical or mystical enough that we were able to sort of blow open a hole in reality, and through that hole came a lot of the sort of abstractions of evil or negativity that sort of populate that world, like the darker, more spectral side of that world. So maybe that kind of gets at what I'm talking about. Like, I love the idea that this could have been our connection to, like, if not God in the abstract, or God as a specific figure, like godhood, godlike ability, godlike perception, godlike understanding of reality, and through science, through physics, through math, through technology. But yeah, like that could have been it. Like, that could have been our like magical step up that ladder, and instead we used it to blow shit up. So anyway, yeah, I'm fascinated with that idea. So I'm really digging where this story starts, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. I'm definitely going to keep up. Honestly, I see myself blowing through all 6 volumes, and they're on ComiXology. They're what? It was like $8 maybe for the first volume.
Yeah,
and they're all the same price, right? So like real affordable. It's real good. It's real, and it's bonkers. And you know how much I love shit that just goes for it super hard. And this story's going for it super hard real early. And not for nothing, Hickman's a brilliant writer. So I trust that wherever it goes, it's definitely going to be worth taking the journey.
Yeah. And you talk about like this concept of like godhood, and it made me think about how like never before that moment did we have the ability to kill so many people at one time. Like, it took a giant volcano to destroy Pompeii, and now we could do that with a snap of a finger, which is insane. But yeah, I too like am going to continue reading on with this. Like I've been through the first 2 volumes. I'll probably be done with the 3 through 6 by the end of this week. Just because it's so good and it goes by so fast.
It goes by real fast.
Yeah, and like
the first volume cover to cover is what 144 pages, and you could breeze through that in probably under 2 hours.
Oh yeah, that's how I did it. Is I just like sat on my couch, sat there for like an hour and a half, and then just like I did another cursory like flip through just because I wanted to make sure I had notes and stuff. But like, bro, it was super like because I've read some longer content that is kind of a slog, but this stuff it goes hard and it goes real fast. And I do the ComiXology Unlimited subscription, so like you can basically just borrow all of them on there, and you can just download them on your iPad, which is what I did. So guys, do that. It's super accessible. This isn't an ad for ComiXology, but it's literally $5.99 a month for like a unlimited subscription, and you get
which is a way better value. Yes, which is a way better value than paying individually for every single thing.
Right.
Yes.
So do that. I highly recommend it. I really want to know what you guys think about it. So why don't you guys hit us up on Twitter at Missing Outcast. That's MissingOutcast, and let us know what you thought about Manhattan Projects, because it's so good. It's so good. We didn't even really spoil anything. We just let you know things that happened. And we also can't spoil anything because we haven't finished the whole thing yet. So finish it with us and let us know your thoughts, bro. Lex, where can they let you know what their thoughts are?
You can let me know what your thoughts do, what they're like, how they be at the Lex Michael.
Nice.
On Twitter and Instagram.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yo.
And you can find me at Tauri J. That's TaurijAY. And if you were like, oh man, I don't use social media, or I like using my voice, then you can also hit us up on the Missing Out hotline. That is 978-MISS-OUT. Just leave us a voicemail and let us know your name or what you go by. If you're like, I prefer my moniker, Dark Sentencer, then let us know what you go by.
What?
Some people like monikers.
Dark Sentencer?
Yeah. I mean, technically that is the name of a Coheed and Cambria song, but that was the first thing that came to mind. Not important.
You know Dark Sentencer was very active on LiveJournal back in the day.
Oh, yeah. That was mine.
Yeah.
It's a double entendre because I feel dark and I'm making sentences. You get it. But yeah, leave us your name or what you go by, and what you're into. Tell us what you thought about Manhattan Project. If you get around to reading it, we will make sure to put a link in the description to both where you can get a physical copy or where you can get it on ComiXology, just so you can keep up with what we're doing. And also just let us know what you're into, guys. We love hearing back from you.
Yes. Is nice.
It's so good.
Do like.
Yes. All right. Well, that brings us to a close this fine session. Thank you for joining us.
What is happening now?
I'm becoming British.
Why?
Have you been to the British Museum?
He's up.
It's
boy.
fine.
Oh, boy.
The British
All right.
Museum.
Let's wrap this
Ooh.
up. This is...
That's where I'll be going once this is done. So, thank you for joining us here on Missing Out. Yes, I will see you next week.
This is upsetting.
Don't be upset. Go to the British Museum.
All right, turn this off. This is a very chaotic podcast today.
I don't think so. I think it's great.
I feel like time is both expanding and contracting simultaneously, which means it's doing nothing. It means it's breaking even. It's the same as it always
standing
is.
Still. I have a very hard time with I's and E's.
Did you know a turkey puppet once ran for the presidency of Ireland? Did you know that meat once rained from the skies of Kentucky? Did you know that there was an emperor of the United States for a while? Then listen to the Wikiship Down podcast.
We live in an age when the sum total of humanity's knowledge can be found in your pocket on a smartphone at any given time. But when that knowledge is peer editable, like it is on Wikipedia, what does that say about mankind? So follow us down the digital rabbit hole as we drink, joke, and curse our way through the random button on Wikipedia and see where our journey through humanity's knowledge takes us.
While you're at it, follow us on all social media at Wikiship Down. I'm Ruth Ann.
I'm Ryan, and be sure to find us every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to podcasts.